Legal Services Archdiocese of Miami Incorporated, and Santra Dennis from Avancer Ensemble. And let me make sure I also let you guys know Francesca Menes is also from the Black Collective. We want to make sure we provide all the information you need tonight, and most importantly, what is the call of action for you guys at home. And we'll also be doing a Q&A at the end. So please stay tuned. We're here for the next 2 hours, and we will take questions from social media at the end. So hold all your questions. We'll share the questions with our guests, and then they'll be answering your questions throughout the night. Thank you again, Francesca.
Thank you. Encore, nous remercions Wanda avec toute ressource li mette dehors là pour aider nous, pour nous porter information ça by communauté nous. C'est pas celle ici Miami, c'est pas celle ici dans Sud Floride, mais dans tout États-Unis pour que ça nous connaît tout le monde suivre Wanda, nous connaît tout le monde supporter la Union Suite, ou pas supporter, nous besoin commencer supporter pour que ça pas connaît comment faire, nous pas connaît de la Union Suite. Et puis on compte tout, nous-mêmes nous remercions Island TV pour que ça encore yo ouvert studio ça côté yo ka supporter communauté pour encore pour nous porter information ça ba nous. So nous pas entrer directement là-dedans. Et puis m'a demandé tout le monde pour introduce yourselves very quickly. Et puis on a commencé avec Christina.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Non, moi c'est Christina François. Moi c'est directrice office nouveau américain avec co-founder the Black Collective.
Madame Sanchez.
Bonsoir tout le monde, c'est Sandra Denis, moi c'est directrice exécutive Miami Worker Center, c'est fondatrice Avancer Ensemble.
And we're about to do a swap out right now.
Yes. I thought I was going to be able to sneak out.
We're going to do a swap out because we had our girl Vanessa. Who was doing a lot, but while we get Vanessa swapping out, Madame Gerline Joseph, Haitian Bridge Alliance in California, please introduce yourself.
Merci en pile, on est respect avec tout le monde qui a regardé, qui a attendu. Non, moi c'est Gerline Joseph. Moi c'est directeur exécutif Haitian Bridge Alliance, compagnon qui a bataille depuis sous frontière Mexique avec toute la prison, avec toute l'autre cause d'immigration dans les États-Unis.
Okay, merci, Gerline, for your introduction. And we're going to give our sis Vanessa just a little bit more so we can get her mic'd up. But again, we want to welcome you if you don't know already, if you don't know what you're watching. We are here, Black Lives Matter 2, at the border, Haitian Refugee Crisis. And so again, this is about when we talk about the dynamics between immigration and our Black folks who are migrating here, we have to be able to have a deeper conversation of what that means and how our folks are impacted, because we saw the visuals for ourselves. We saw how devastating it was, how foul and disgusting it was, and that is again part of why we know we have a responsibility to inform and educate our folks. We got our sis mic up. Vanessa, can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Bonsoir tout le monde. Je nous connais, c'est Vanessa Joseph, avocat immigration en dans Catholique Charité Service Légal, avocat peuple là. Et bien sûr, nous connaissons déjà que c'est greffier élu dans la ville de Miami. Donc c'est un plaisir pour nous avec nous, mesdames.
Merci encore pour que ça nous ait toutes belles femmes haïtiennes, ça y est, belles femmes jam, belles femmes créoles ici dans le studio. Et puis nous avons Madame Gerline Joseph, c'est nous qui est en Californie, qui fait sortir dans la frontière. Je crois que c'est jeudi, où vous là, vous faites presque une semaine et demie. L'autre bois a aidé mon New a aidé à contrôler tout ça qui a passé l'autre bois. Nous voulons entrer dans ça pour que ça nous voulons pour le monde comprendre tout ça qui te fait passer dans la frontière. Est-ce que vous avez dit nous qui ça te ouais dans la frontière? Est-ce que vous avez dit nous comment vous avez processé pour que ça nous pas fin comprendre comment vous avez recevoir haïtien, comment tout haïtien ça arrivé sur avion, je crois qu'on y a n'importe combien d'avions qui étaient en vol qui étaient arrivés à Haïti. Est-ce que vous avez expliqué pour le peuple là qui ça te ouais dans la frontière?
Oui, merci en pile. Un premier bagage, moi, je voulais dire tout le monde, c'est que ça nous était en bas pour moi, c'est pas un bagage qui était fait privé comme ça. Problème, comme tu as dit, il y a un Haïtien sous frontière Mexique avec les États-Unis, ça a commencé depuis 2015. Et depuis 2015, tout nous a sonné cloche pour faire mon connaître, il y a plus que 15 000 Haïtiens qui sont sous frontière qui ont besoin d'aide. Alors, ça que nous venons en bas pour moi, c'est un phénomène qui vient arriver parce que moun yo pas gagné aucun autre bagaille, aucun autre gens pour être capable de joindre protection. Ça que nous apprenons de la part de moun yo qui gens ont été fait arriver en bas pont, c'est parce que une dit l'autre autant des nouvelles si que yo allé en bas dans frontière ça, yo capable de joindre protection pour yo demander asile. Malheureusement, c'était une mauvaise nouvelle littéraire. Également, qui sorti Tapachula, moun qui sorti Tijuana, moun qui sorti dans l'autre ville qui connectait frontière avec Mexique et puis États-Unis. Tout est couru aller en bas pont parce que nouvelle là t'es bail. Si yo allé là, yo capable d'une protection. Malheureusement, c'est pas vrai. Mais ça que nous t'es et constaté. Et nous t'es arrivé avant même que nouvelle là t'es sorti dans la radio, dans la télévision, parce que nous t'es connaît mon yo là, nous t'as porté secours, nous t'as baillé service que nous avons fait depuis 2015. Mais là, nous privé, t'es en pile monde, et puis malheureusement, ça t'est venu tomber dans le journal, côté que Ted Cruz t'est venu, il dit comme ça que États-Unis a invaded by Haitians qui dans frontière, c'est parce que président Biden pas déporté. Et nous voyons que le président Biden, avec l'administration, ça y fait, il répond avec action, il commencé à mettre les gens sous déportation.
So, Kounia, ça nous c'est encore, on a parlé des informations à la communauté nous adjoignent. Pour ça, nous tendons en pile de monde, famille dit monde, venir, faire retour venir ici, Biden a bon statut pour qu'à résider. Et puis, nous avons vraiment voulu pour monde comprendre pour ça. En pile monde pensait c'est it was overnight that we saw these people arrive in Texas. And we want to be able to give them the context that these people have been arriving for years. And so be able to kind of like explain that as well as the process, because again, from what we understand, they weren't processing individuals the way that they normally process them. And so we weren't able to properly identify our people, find out where they were, if they were being deported, families having to wait days in order to actually identify their folks. And so could you break that down a little bit more of like, how are they selecting who stays and who goes? Like, were you able to kind of see and understand that?
Oui. Problème là, et depuis sous président Trump, il a commencé à tirer les titres 42. Titre 42 c'est un comme si une politique que yo mettait pour yo capable définitivement fermer frontières net. C'est un bagage que Stephen Miller lui-même t'a créé sous des lois qui étaient là depuis longtemps. Bagay depuis 100 ans passés, yo vinn prendre kounya, yo vinn utiliser li spécifiquement sous frontière qui dit comme ça que les hommes entrer, yo pas déporté, yo expulsé yo. Ça qui veut dire on n'a pas accès avec rien du tout. Même un number yo pas ba yo parce que yo vinn tomber dans yon côté yo dans limbo, right? Parce que yo pas ba yo aucun accès pour yo joindre avocat, aucun accès pour yo parler à la famille yo. Côté yo mette yo qui fait entre 3 jours à 12 jours parfois, yo pas même accès pour yo brosser bouche ou yo baigner. Là où moun n'a prélé de pas ka jeune famille, malheureusement c'est dans côté ça yo côté que yo poko ni soit décider si a déporter yo, si a plagué ou bien si yo pral mettre yo dans voyo by ICE qui capable mettre dans prison et immigration.
Okay.
Et comme qui j'ai choisi moun jusqu'à présent même yo pas dit qui j'ai choisi moun. Bon ba nous un exemple. Nous gagnons 2 sœurs qui viennent, 2 sœurs qui marassa. Et c'est histoire vraiment ba nous c'est pas bagaille qu'on créé. 2 sœurs qui marassa. Tous les deux gagnent mari avec un petit petit, tous les deux enceintes. Youn lagué, youn déporté. Yo te vini ensemble, yo fait route là ensemble, yo gen même toute bagaille. Youn yo lagué youn famille qui c'est yon sœur et puis yo lagué youn yo déporté yon l'autre famille. Le famille qui te lagué à nous rencontrer li, nous recevoir li, nous aider li à jeune famille, li mande nous côté sœur, le n'a cherché en demain nous joindre réponse que li déporté. Moi expliquer nous ça, c'est pour nous comprendre que pas gagner ni une condition qui fait yo laguer yon moun ou bien yo déporter yon moun. Nous tendez en pile rumeur dans la communauté, on dit c'est pour que famille ou capable bay adresse y a plagué. C'est pas vrai. Yo dit de pour enceinte ou yo get moun y a plago. C'est pas vrai parce que yo lage yo déporté mon enceinte, yo déporté mon petit bébé qui a 2 semaines depuis yo fait, yo mette yo dans avion yo déporté yo. Et son bagage que nous avons subi depuis longtemps, c'est pas bagage qui fait que lié. Nous avons en pile monde qui déjà déporté avant causer en bas pont. De février à juillet, le président Biden a envoyé 35 avions plein monde déporté à Haïti. Et Kounia nous connaît à cause de ça que nous ouais en bas pont. Gens yo maltraité haïtien, frère nous, accès nous, famille nous. Gen en pile nous qui a gardé là nous gen famille nous, frère nous, sœurs nous, cousines nous, moun qui sont dans même zone avec nous qui gen tant déporté. Nous gen quelques graines tout qui la gen mais tant pris, pas gagné yon condition qui dit n'a plagué tel monde ou bien y a déporté tel monde. J'aime dire nous demain à venir
Okay, Gerlin, so I'm going to bring everybody in because it was very important, especially for Gerlin who's been at the border, pour que ça me pour nous comprendre ça. Gerlin, il fait presque 2 semaines dans la frontière, qui a fait interview avec famille, qui a essayé d'aider moun river Floride, river New York, river Boston, côté famille, moun yo t'a plagué et puis vous tendez ça le dire, c'est pas un processus côté yo fait une décision qui moun y a plagué par famille et puis qui moun y a déporté. So me pour mener surtout Vanessa avec Christina qui fait travail dans la partie immigration pour que ça crise ça nous est-ce que c'est un bagage normal nous connaît est-ce que même temps même pour public la comprendre comment faire nous arriver côté nous arriver. How did we get to where we are right now? It's really important context-wise for people to understand that this did not happen overnight. And is this normal, like immigration and how the administration was handling this? And I'm going to pass it to y'all too. I don't know who want to take it first.
I'm going to let Vanessa
I'm like, tell all the feelings, tell the truth.
I just want to say one thing before them.
Yes, go ahead.
Si nous pas dit Gerlin qui c'est pas dans 2 semaines ça yo seulement que Gerlin a fait travail ça
depuis 2015.
Right, dans frontière depuis 2015. So ça c'est pas un monde qui séparate sur nous, ça c'est un monde qui nous.
Exactly. Depuis 2015 California, depuis les Haïtiens ont entré California, Gerlin a fait travail ça.
That's right. So I just wanted to share that and pass to Vanessa.
Yeah, au kono bagay nous toujours oublier c'est que étant que haïtien oublier facile, OK? Et c'est seul là comme si yon vraie crise m'a dit rivé que nous essayer penser bon ça que mené nous là. Mais là nous fait face avec ennemi nous pas ka dire. États-Unis sont gros problème. Pendant que la bail tout chance que nous les fait nous à l'école. Moi merci États-Unis pour le fait que l'été quitté mal l'école, comprendre que mon vie qui est assez confortable ici là. M'pas jamais oublier histoire États-Unis avec Haïti. Et m'saute dans réunion là, je dis avec moun qui travaille dans l'administration, ça dans le gouvernement et me fait songer que c'est yo même, c'est États-Unis qui vraiment mène Haïti côté lié journée jeudi. Et je pense que un pile fois nous avons tendance à oublier ça, un pile fois que à cause du fait que nous vivons bien aux États-Unis ou bien que nous satisfaits avec la vie nous aux États-Unis, nous avons tendance pas à vouloir bailler vérité, mais vérité effectivement c'est ça. Donc nous pas même rentrer dans toute histoire là parce que nous avons commencé depuis au départ côté nous pas même voulu reconnaître que Haïti est un pays libre. Mais si nous réfléchissons avec ces derniers temps, on réfléchit même après nous avons dit coup d'État, côté que nous commencé vraiment, ça c'est dans la période que nous-mêmes nous avons connaissance, ok? So, c'est le ça Christina a fait commencer à activiser, you know, like, c'est pas le petit monde pitié. So, you know, dans l'époque, ça, nous vraiment commencé à côté que les États-Unis rentrent dans le pays et puis ils commencé à détruire les institutions que nous avons gagnées. Et puis, quand on a posé tête, qui j'en fait que Haïti comme ça, et puis, seul gens que yo même yo ouais pour yo agir avec Haïti, c'est étant que comme si on petit moun petit et puis ou imposer solution pour sur yon lot pays, comme d'habitude, ok? Mais, pi gros problème que m'gagne vraiment, c'est que même les États-Unis dit que yo voye tout milliards de dollars ça yo en Haïti, yo pas ka dou ça comme lan te fait. Et puis côté comme la aller, nan poche zami yo, moun ki corrompu, nan poche allié yo, nan poche même organisation américaine. Mais nous pas jamais ka vraiment dit que États-Unis te bay Haïti une chance si États-Unis pas jamais vraiment investi dans le peuple haïtien. So pour moi, et là on commence très loin. Et me ka aller plus loin toujours. Et me connais Christina ka mène nous vraiment loin.
We can go to Woodrow Wilson. We can go to 1915.
Yeah.
We can go to.
Non, li ka
Haiti
commencer
being
dans
the US being a debt collector.
Justement.
Yes.
And so, je pense que c'est là, en termes de l'histoire, pas vrai, c'est là que nous vraiment commencé. Mais on ne pas oublier que c'est pas Haïtien seulement qui a immigré. C'est pas la première fois. Haïti, c'est pas Haïtien qui a créé route ça, non? Route ça est déjà créé. Yo dit nous suivre les. Mais route là est déjà créé. So, en termes de qui que nous fait arriver là, pas penser que c'est un nouveau phénomène, c'est parce que nous-mêmes, c'est un pile monde qui pas déjà dans notre travail, ça, ou bien cap mobilisé dans le domaine, ça, c'est nouveau pour nous. Mais ce n'est pas la première fois que nous connaissons que nous avons essayé de rentrer dans le pays. Hein. Mais cependant, c'est la première fois que moi, que nous, well. Non, non, figure comme ça. Yeah. So, ma petite Christine après reste là.
And you can speak in English. So we can do our Cree English. We can do our Cree English. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it.
English. So, a little summary of what Vanessa said. We can go back to the early 2000s when there was the nice way of saying it, the transition of a transitional government after the removal of Augustine.
You don't have to be nice.
You ain't gotta be political.
You ain't gotta be nice.
She got a whole day job, y'all.
Word choice is important. But I will say that from the beginning of the
With the United Nations.
occupation of Haiti, we are seeing countries in the Western Hemisphere, in South America, people are wondering, well, why are these people coming from Chile and Brazil? Because Chile and Brazil recruited them.
Yes.
Welcomed them, invited them.
They gave them a visa.
Ouvert deux bras.
They got on a plane. So but my number one thing is the people who have been in South America for the past decade got a visa and got on a plane to Chile and Brazil and other countries in the region to be able to help build the World Cup stadiums and the Olympic stadiums, to be able to do the cattle work that people no longer wanted to do in those countries. And so now that our labor is no longer needed,
Hostility.
thanks to COVID, other economic pressures, changes in their own local governments, now the conditions of our people that they're living in is so inhumane.
But you have to say it, Christina, they discarded us. They discarded us.
They wouldn't issue birth certificates, so children who are born in Chile were not getting their birth certificates. Like we have to be able to speak it and understand. Like even the U.S. like they weren't repatriating them back to Chile and back to South, and they sent them straight to
Chile
Haiti
said,
because they were
see
like,
what's happening at the border,
and we don't need
can't
them.
send them back
Exactly.
either.
And so
Even
I
though
want
there's
Sandra to weigh into this because again, it's like I want to say on some does a lot of work about educating our generation, making sure that we understand the role that we have to play when it comes to the transformation of our country, what we feel that we know that we deserve. And so I want you to be able, again, to like speak to like what we have seen historically in that frustration and what we wish could be different and what our role and responsibility is in that.
Right, thank you so much, Fran and the Black Collective Island TV. I think for me, what's most important, and Christina alluded to it, is that prior to Chile, Brazil opening their doors to Haitians, they were in Haiti, right? They were the peacekeepers. And and so that is where the relationships started to begin, where people started families, people, you know, had babies, right? There are families, and so there were also you started to see this kind of entanglement, we would say, with people who came from different communities.
Entanglement.
So we're gonna take a pause for our people watching us on Island TV, but for our folks on our social media platforms, we're gonna continue this conversation. So pour tout le monde qui a suivi nous là sur Island TV, nous pas y retourner après on série de éclame, après ça nous toujours là, nous continuer conversation.
So they were living in Haiti.
It's a dance break.
Yeah.
You know one thing that and that problem. Can you hear me?
Yes,
One
I
thing
can
that
hear
I said, as we hear the
No, you can't because I can hear you.
Yeah. I mean, you can unmute us. Yeah, so we just, again, want to keep this going. So, Sandra, you can finish your thought.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that, like, it is not coincidental that folks started going to Brazil and Chile. There was also Brazilians and Chileans were in Haiti doing peacekeeping missions. I also think that it's important for us to know that it is not okay for folks to build up your country, for folks to be of necessity to you, and then for you to just discard of them, right? We don't believe that to be fair. We don't believe that to be right. And also, that is not what Haitians do to people. The last point in terms of this topic that I'll bring up is also that
You're like trying to figure out how do I best,
You on
how do
your
I say this?
time.
right.
We gotta be able to be blunt and be truthful about
We
it.
truly believe that in order, wealthy people, white people, they get to come and go as they want. I was recently in Mexico.
They're expats.
Valle Blum where living there. No one
Expats.
asked them, do they have a visa? Are they sans papier? No kind of like authority has told them they can come live here. They live whatever they want, how they want to. No one asked them any questions.
So we're about to come back because we again. Mesdames et messieurs, merci encore pour que ça nous là nous était branchés avec connecté, changer nous dur, nous sur plusieurs plateformes à soir, nous sur Facebook, nous sur YouTube, nous sur Instagram et puis nous là dans studio avec Island TV. So n'a quitté Sancha fin dit ça l'a dit après ça we're going to give a quick recap.
Right. What I was saying is that I just reject the notion that wealthy people, white people, can travel and go and live however they want to, wherever they want to. You see them, wherever you go, it is for them. They take over how they want to. But as soon as you're dark skinned, as soon as you don't speak a dominant language, as soon as you don't have the wealth that they have, all of a sudden there's all these restrictions as to where you can go live, where your family can go. And that's just not the case for everyone. And so I think for me, Francesca went into it that it is so important in these free internets for us Haitian Americans, children of refugees, children of people who made a sacrifice to come here, to stay read up, to ensure we know our stuff, to not be under comments talking about stuff that we don't know, because there is a vast majority of information that we can learn from. And if we ask ourselves questions about, when y'all see these Joe Schmoes in Haiti, what residence do they have? How were they able to go to? Right? How are they able to own land? Just how they want to. Haiti not asking people how you got over here, right? If I want to go move today, I can go move, right? And so, like, these are the things that we have to ask ourselves in order for us to respond to ourselves and to say, actually, this is inequitable, this is unfair, and there's definitely things that we can do to push systems that hold us back and are unfair to our people. And I would just say more than unfair, more than unjust, which are criminal to our people.
And I just, somebody, one of the things my favorite thing that people love to say is, well, what about the Haitian politician? Who props them up? Who gets them elected? So we're not asking those questions, right? Because we would rather just be critical of our own. We'd just rather be critical and say, oh, like it's their fault, it's their fault. Yeah. But the thing is that we have to allocate blame where it needs to be. And so for a lot of people, they don't realize what hand and what heavy hand that the United States government has in electing these leaders. Yes. Somebody mentioned today, they were talking about like who has a mandate in Haiti right now, and the fact that, who does the prime minister respond to? There's no president. Yeah. What about the core group? They're the president. What are you talking about? And people don't people don't read. Y'all don't read.
Who received the Haitians? Who received the Haitians who got deported to Haiti?
And how much money was given?
I'm telling you.
5.5.
Oh, we're so happy about that 5 million.
Can I tell you who received them, though? Who received them?
Civil society. It was the organ.
But no, and I'm talking about in this way.
Actually,
young people.
Okay,
wait.
USAID is the one who's receiving
that part
and getting funding. So
that part.
5 million.
So it's basically going back
to
into the United States.
However, who's
it's like
actually
magic.
doing the work
our
of
people
receiving
on the ground.
These folks are youth.
Yes, young people.
That's not even my point. My point is America is deporting people to a government that they put in place.
Yeah. My God.
So actually, when you're like Haitian government, what Haitian government? The one that you put in place?
Yeah, and again.
May I say something?
Yeah,
May I say something on what you just mentioned? Is the fact that we do not have a Haitian government, the fact that we do not have a Haitian president and the vice president. We all know who he answers to, because he himself made a comment stating that the country and he is unable to receive the people. But he had to correct that really quick, because when his bosses told him you have to take them, he came back. We have to take them. So the internal violence that we see happening on the ground by them accepting to receive the people, and the external violence that continues to impact our community that is being literally done by the United States. We are looking at internal violence.
That's right.
And external violence that is crippling who we are as a country, as a people from the very beginning, that Vanessa so clearly talked about. And right now, when they say Haiti is ready to receive people, who in Haiti, with the government, we have a quasi-government who's only responding to what they are being told by their masters. That is reality.
And that's the important thing that we need our folks to understand, because we're quick to blame ourselves, that, and again, for a lot of us who don't fully understand our history, particularly foreign policy, our political history, the relationship with the United States, the very long relationship with the United States, to the changes that they made in their constitution, because remember, nobody could just easily own land in Haiti. It was the U.S. government who came in, pressured, made the change so that they can access and own land. And so we really have to be able to be grounded in that, especially, again, when we talk about our debts to France, and that the United States basically was the debt collector. I think it was only very recently that Haiti had fully paid off its debt for its own independence. And it's like, again, what country do you know that had to pay for their own independence after they
after they beat you?
I beat you. Like, we had a revolution, I beat you, and I beat you bad.
America's still not paying their debt.
Exactly. And so, again, it's very important to be really rooted and grounded in that history, because at the end of the day, and we know as folks who do immigration work, we always feel, especially when we're talking to people who are very anti-immigrant, who are very quick to blame those who are migrating here, is that we have to understand the root causes of migration. What is causing people to flee their homes, leaving their children and their families behind with the hopes that they will one day be reunited with one another, and and the whole purpose and effort.
And I think we need to recap that for
But like y'all ain't like. Thank you.
To say, but who told them to go?
Who told them to come here?
But
who told your mama to come?
That's what I had to say. Like.
But let's do a little recap for folks who are just now paying attention to the fact that people have been leaving, just like how y'all ended up here in America, because it required somebody to leave.
And they didn't swim.
So we have Haiti is part of an island that is on 2 fault lines. We have 2 peninsulas, and there are fault lines. We are
earthquake fault lines.
We're the country of mountains beyond mountains because of those fault lines that are active, and they have been active increasingly for the last decade, which is why we had the 2010 earthquake. We had the earthquake in August.
Haiti is not cursed.
It's not cursed. It's geography,
right.
And we're also in the flow of tropical depression and hurricanes. That is.
We get it before the United States get it.
It's like science.
And so, first of all, people are climate refugees. Let's take the politics out of this for 1 second, because I know we can talk about that forever. But literally, folks are not able to live in the communities that they have been living in for generations. We have an entire southern region of our country. Imagine an earthquake hitting 4 states at the same time that all have different needs. There are folks that are close to the coastline. There are folks that are at the top of the mountain, and everybody in between has been dealing with the after effects of this earthquake in a different way. And so when we're talking about how do you grow crops when the land is split? How do you rebuild your house when the ground is unstable? How do you even rebuild in the middle of hurricane season? That's right. Let's be real about the actual conditions of the country, because even if we've spent 200+ years dealing with U.S. intervention, and yet we still survive. We are still here, and we are not going anywhere. The one thing that is an existential threat to us
is the environment.
Yeah.
Can I add that people left New Orleans to go live in Texas, to go live in
that
other
was okay.
places, and never went back? Why? Because of a climate disaster. So this climate migration is not new. We did not make it up. We know that when the land is attacking you, people move. Yes. Right?
Exactly.
And people have a right
Migration
to move.
is a natural phenomenon.
And my thing will always be, and borders are fake.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Colonialism.
No, but it's okay. It's
I know, girl,
okay.
you trying to come in.
No, but wait,
I'll
like
give you a minute.
y'all,
go ahead.
y'all
Jump to Gerlene.
throughout the
Let
whole.
me add something to what Sandra just said. Le cyclone n'a été passé Texas. Tel course pour famille courir aller Mexique avec
Thank you. Thank you.
Le cyclone n'a passé, il y a un château qui mène yo là-dedans, n'est-ce pas? And one thing I think Centra mentioned earlier, bagay border ça c'est pour moun qui pauvre qui pas de protection lié. Sou gen là on gen ou ka monter avion aller côté ou gen. Pas gen accès border pour ou. Ou ka aller côté ou vle, l'on vle, j'on vle. C'est ça qui fait tout système ça yo qui créé, c'est pour yo capable tout pisi moun qui besoin de protection, moun qui plus n'a besoin, c'est yo même qui subit plus. Et là, on a parlé de qui gens haïtiens fait arriver en bas pont. Haïtiens on s'est arrivé en bas pont parce que yo fait arriver en bas pont.
Merci.
Yo forcé arriver en bas pont. Moi capable de moi pas parler avec yon moun qui dit comme ça, on me lever jodi, on me dit on me senti me quitter pays à comme ça. Yo quitté pays parce que gagne violence, gagne problème politique, gagne problème climat, gagne tout bagay ça yo. Before the assassination, il y a un plus gros problème que Haïtiens qui te viennent demander refuge te gagné, c'est que depuis ouais Haïtiens ont déjà dit que ça c'est monde qui vient pour causer économique. Mais dans quelles conditions nous arriver dans problème économique? Pendant que nous avons parlé de histoire, nous sortis dans une colonie qui était plus riche dans le monde pour arriver dans un pays qui est plus pauvre. Qui a fait arriver là? Qui a fait que nous sommes capables de sortir pour nous arriver en bas pont? Qui reste responsable que nous-mêmes nous trouvions en bas pont?
But you know, Girlene, I want to push back on this, like, notion que c'est nous-mêmes qui pays qui plus pauvres là. Parce que si nous t'es pauvres, tout pauvre, ça vrai.
Why
Right?
would they making all this
They
effort?
would be leaving us alone.
Why? Like, all this effort.
No,
Everybody's
no, what I
showing up.
All of this
Everybody's
effort.
showing up. Everybody's showing up.
Everybody want access?
Everybody wants access. Everybody has something that go intérêt pour y aller défendre en Haïti. Mais cependant, c'est nous-mêmes qui plus pauvres.
And it's the
Notion,
simplest way
the
to
notion,
almost kind of
right? The
Right, the
notion
notion,
of-
exactly.
of the
Exactly.
poverty. And it's simple, like the simplest way, especially for like our brothers and sisters, African Americans who may be watching us as well, is that the example that we give is the comparable to voting rights. Why is it that they are suppressing our vote, taking away access to the polls, early voting, dropping off your ballot, all of these layers and layers of hindrance to stop you from voting? It's because they know the power of your votes. We don't understand the power of our vote, but they understand it, and that's why they're trying to strip it away. And so, again, going back to Vanessa, it's like, why do y'all have so much interest in Haiti? The pearl of the Antilles. Why do you have so much interest in it? It's because we know of the resources, the minerals that our people don't know how to extract. Not that they don't know how to. They can't.
They're not allowed to.
They're not allowed to. They don't have the resources to extract it, but other people are coming in
Because
and
the
taking it.
people may be poor,
Ah,
But the land.
but the land is rich.
thank you. Et c'est même yo même là.
Either. As I said again, it's the notion.
The notion, correct.
that
Yes.
they have created. That's what I say. How do you come from the richest colony,
Yes.
right, to being the notion of being the poorest
Poorest.
country? It's the notion, and again, let's not forget that Haiti dare to be. The very existence of Haiti is unacceptable to the West.
Yes.
Yes.
And they prove it every time they have to, you know, they see us. Every time they have to encounter with us, every time they have to interact with us, you can see, you know, who do y'all think y'all are, right? There's like this,
How dare you?
it's a how dare you. It's like, I'm going to prove a point that you
you
don't
would never
see
be.
in other, in other,
You don't
Context
see that in
and-
Jamaica.
yeah.
right,
You don't see that in other Caribbean
But
countries.
it's the same ones that are writing Haiti is the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere qui pral ouvert dan yo pour yo vin dou que oh voyager en Haïti is gadja pays en belle.
that's where y'all at. It's the same ones when you, it's the same ones when you're vacationing in Haiti. It's the same ones you see, them with their families there.
Ba mwen tire mi kwa tadi.
It's the same ones.
Even people are not ni moun en Haiti.
You're so what? Anyway.
Yo kon plage paso.
So let's transition to what is happening
Please,
now.
let me go first.
Oh,
I came for that.
Sandra was like, please let me go first. But like, let's talk about what's happening now, because again, we got people arriving in Miami. People are just being dropped off. People don't know where to go, and it's like, so what's happening? And beyond again the administration, because we know the silence that was there, and then I'm trying not to curse or say it, but we know that messed up statement that Biden put out. Mayorkas, no accountability there. And so what is happening right now, Sandra?
But wait,
I'm gonna
can I
tell you
just
what's
say
not
one thing? Can I say one thing? Pour moun ki te invite fami nou, ou bien ou moun nou konen, vini, nou di yo ke nap sponsorize yo, nap ede yo, epi lè moun yo rive, nan frontiyan lan, yo rele, epi ou di yo pap ede yo, bon Dieu wè nou.
Bon Dieu, when nous, bon Dieu, calé nous. Because if we are clear, you know, moi me fidèle yo, parce que, you know, et mon lever dans l'évangile. When I was thirsty, did you give me when I was hungry, did you feed me?
Okay, Pastor.
Right?
Yes.
All that, God was talking to y'all, us, right? And so really quickly in terms of where I think Haitian Americans, the children of the refugees, what our role is, we have U.S. Congress people who this is their very job. We don't have a recollection of how many people got deported, what status they have, how they making the decisions, where are they going, how are we going to resettle them. In what world will this ever be possible in another community?
It's the truth.
And I will also say that in South Florida, the largest populations of Haitians outside of Haiti, and we have people that represent us that we vote for, this is unacceptable. And we should call them every day. And if y'all are having protests, it should happen right in front of their offices.
In front of their offices.
All the things, because for the $179,000 they get paid a year, this is the least they can do.
179.
$179,000, almost $200,000 a year.
Just to be clear.
And when they when they're elected
Mais
out.
c'est nous-mêmes impaves, un pauvre. We doing the work. We giving a press conference. We doing a whole live.
Or when they do the press conference, they don't even invite our people to actually lift up our voices and.
And I'm gonna just say this really quick, and I'm gonna be quiet and step back.
Oh no, please
Leo,
don't.
when they invite y'all, when they invite you to the pointless press conferences, when they invite
So that
you
you
to
can
go
be their
take
token
trips,
Haitian?
so you can be tokens.
Pokazino.
Faut nous gen figi. Faut nous capable gen courage. Faut nous dire no way. There's no way I'm standing next to you after you came and talked to us in May and all these months saying we were friends and allies, but when we were chased by horses, whipped, you didn't think about your friends? You let that happen to your friends? Yeah. No, we're not friends.
But here's the thing too.
We're not friends. We're not friends. And on top of it,
We're not friends.
no bother me. On top of it, we are seeing people go into the community now. Also, need to make a call to action to our Haitian American community. Par exemple, pour faire TPS, nous parlons avec moun qui Haitian American, moun qui gagne green card, moun qui gagne citizen. Bagay ça pas intéressé yo si c'est pas yo même personnellement li affecté. I know I'm coming straight into the community with those issues. Pendant que bagay la tap fait là en bas pont, tout le monde besoin aider, qui je pour nous aider, c'est en bas pont pour venir ouais parce que gagne cause en bas pont, c'est la média.
Yelene, I'm gonna put you on a pause because tout le monde encore qui a suivi nous sur Island TV, nous parlons dans réclame, vous êtes branchés avec nous.
No, it's not too hot. Nah, they're gonna have to give us a little bit. West, you're gonna have to give us a little bit.
Yo mettre dans réclame, nous-mêmes n'a continuer conversation.
They better go drink some tea. There's some question.
Les amis, chocolat, faire ça nous besoin faire et puis n'a retourner dans un petit moment.
That's right.
It was just getting real hot.
Oh yes.
Oui, on a parlé à la communauté à tout.
Yeah.
They next.
Yeah. Because I'm ready for some of them.
We're going to ask our people to call in, but we're waiting for them to go to commercial so that we can continue with our folks online. You know, we're please, patience with this technology. All right, y'all. So for those who are still watching us on all the social media platforms, for La Union, again, we thank our sister Wanda Tima for creating this space and holding this space for us as we are on La Union Suite. On Instagram, I believe we're also on Twitter. We're also on YouTube, and we're on the Haitian American on Facebook. And so let's continue this conversation. I'm
waiting on Gerline to finish. Listen, because I was ready. Because here's the thing, like exactly what she said is absolutely right. Okay. It's always when, because even right now, I'm trying to get certain people to do certain things. Now that there's not a whole bunch of sad faces and then, cameras aren't there, you want to, like, y'all don't want to do the work anymore. All of a sudden, it's not important anymore.
Yeah, Gerline, you can go ahead.
Oui, qui t'aime pas nous bagay la bien.
Pas nul.
Hey, tout le monde là yo connaît. C'est pour un bagay qui fait criver depuis 6 ans. N'a dit moun gagne 10 000, gagne 15 000 haïtiens, 1000 haïtiens moun sur frontière. Puis gros problème nous gagne. Le bagay la te en bas pour tout le monde vini côté ceci comme I want to help. You don't need to come there because there's no access. Oh, I want to help. I want to come anyways. As if the help is under the bridge where they are under. They are not l'État pas m'bay mon yo côté pour yo passer même. Kounye là, le nouveau est moun yo aller dans Floride, dans New York, dans Massachusetts. Moun y après les nous, même gens que avocat Vanessa te dit, le moun arrivé y aurait les familles pas répondre. Kounye après de me parler avec nous, nous avons 3 familles que nous voyons dans Fort Lauderdale Airport jusqu'à présent, c'est hôtel tout près airport là nous chercher météo parce que nous pas côté pour nous météo. Tout le monde qui te dit besoin d'aider, monde qui sorti Miami, qui sorti dans zone là qui dit yo vinn aider, kounya nous pas ka joindre yon monde qui pour même tabac moun yon morceau manger. Pendant que nous avons parlé de toute bagaille ça yo, mais en tant que communauté, faut nous capable mettre tête ensemble pour nous répondre avec besoin yo. Parce que si nous-mêmes nous pas prendre soin de tête nous, lion gens difficile. Que l'œil a plagué mon yo, faut capable montrer que nous capable prendre responsabilité mon yo tout. Gen pile côté qui gagne resettlement agencies, mais moun sa yo pas gen statut réfugié. Moun sa yo c'est demandeur d'asile yo pas lagué avec papier pour travail, yo pas lagué avec un papier côté yo capable supporter tête yo. Yo ba yo moment pour yo chercher avocat. Combien d'avocats qui voulaient prendre pro bono cases? Combien d'avocats qui parlent ouais moment ça c'est moment pour yo capable gagner un pile client pour yo capable charger un montant qui parle que yo pas ka gagner pour yo bagage. Ça fait nous même n'a demandé avocat pro bono pour aider moun yo. N'a demandé moun qui pour capable aider moun yo avec problème médical. Si yon moun vini ici, li gen yo testé li gen problème, qui est-ce moun qui a pédé? Si le bon si moun qui besoin l'école, li pas contre qui pour faire ça, qui est-ce moun qui a pédé? Si yon moun vini ici, li joue nos familles qui pour prendre, mais on connaît communauté nous pas riche. Li besoin j'ai besoin support. Qui est-ce moun qui a pédé? Moun qui t'a demandé qui pour yo aider yo, c'est kounya nous avec we are facing. Right, we are facing the community. We are facing the asylum seekers. Unfortunately, you're pas réfugié et you're pas resettled dans mes gros organisations qui normally resettle people.
Yeah, and that's very unfortunate, and it didn't have to be that way. And the second thing is, listen, just be real about who you are, right? Not a problem if you just no, but if you don't want to do it, if that's not who you are. So I'm faire photo in the studio, I'll faire photo, right? But if you want to be about help, let's be about help, because we shouldn't have all these people in the comments. Oh, what should I do? I want to take a trip. I want to buy a ticket to go to Houston. Save your money. Help the people right now, right? That's what we're talking about.
But that's,
so it can't
or
be.
They wanted to send food and clothes, but yet when they're in your community and they don't have access to food and clothes,
let me tell you something.
Then it's crickets.
Let me tell you something. For the people who have been texting me, calling me, talking about, oh, Vanessa doesn't pick up her phone. Yeah, it's because you sent me a text saying you want to know where to donate clothes.
I don't ever answer
in
those
Texas.
Lana Goodwill, Lana Fort Lauderdale, Miami.
That's all I got for you.
Dio pas de qui côté pour donner clothing Texas parce que bon dis nous qui j'ai processus la fête.
Yes.
Le yo lage moun yo dans Del Rio. Nous recevoir moun yo 2 heures seulement moun yo fait avec nous parce que pas de overnight shelter dans Del Rio. Même côté là nous voyons moun yo soit San Antonio ou bien Houston. Moun yo pas supposé faire plus que 2 jours dans San Antonio ou bien Houston parce que supposé avoir une famille. Si vous gen ride avec bagay pour bay ou pas capoter au San Antonio avec Houston, moun yo pas là, c'est pas là yo yé. Moun yo c'est de passage que yo yé. Si vous capable bay un support, kembe rad là, kembe kob là, kembe manger là, le yo vini Miami.
Le sa wa bay yo.
Le sa wa bay yo support ya bay assistance là.
Fait un comité pour capable dire OK, on nous cherche qui vient nous capable aider moun yo dans communauté côté nous yé. Vanessa soit dire c'est correctement. We cannot accept donations in Texas. Right now, nous avons à peu près 1100. Qui le dit en créole? 1100 qui sont passés dans El Paso, Texas. C'est de passage que vous avez. They only with us in those shelters for 1 or 2 days maximum.
Yeah, but y'all just want to be on the scene. Y'all just want people to see a picture talking about, oh, here I am with the selfie, reporting live from Texas. I didn't know you was a journalist.
So, Kunya na we're gonna be starting with our folks on connecté. So give us some grace. Oui, bonsoir tout le monde encore. Welcome to Connecté. Changer nous dire son édition spécialement nous gain pour nous pour ça nous connaître grand pile question dans la communauté de qui ça qui t'a passé dans point dans frontière en Texas et puis so kounya nous mène tout le monde ça yo ba nous pour apporter information ça ba nous. So avant break là et puis nous t'a parlé et puis me pour Gerline répéter pour que ça est vraiment important pour monde comprendre. Là n'a pour nous bailler donation pour manger, pour rad, pour tout bagage ça pour nous vraiment comprendre c'est pas dire nous pas vouloir accepter bagage ça c'est dire nous pas accepter bagage ça pour ça tant pour dire Gerline moun ça en passage yo pas arriver dans notre dernière destination yo. So me pour expliquer ça pour moun yo qui a suivi nous là dans connecté.
Oui, merci en pile. Et moi, je nous connecter parce que ça nous a dit là, c'est connecté à même que les connexions. Connexion, c'est que le monde entré dans n'importe frontière, que Arizona, côté nous avons 4 frontières nous entré, que Texas, que Californie, le monde entré c'est de passage liés. Il fait seulement 1 ou bien 2 jours avec nous. Yo tombé dans Floride, dans New York, dans Massachusetts, pour y a nous un pile monde qui pour aller Ohio, qui pour aller North Carolina tout. Il y a un pile monde qui aller dans zone Maryland tout à cause du côté qui y a un petit travail que yo capable faire sans embattable. Vous comprenez ça me dit nous. Mais tout le monde qui a besoin de venir pour yo garder en bas pont, pas gagner en bas pont hein.
Et puis, même pour expliquer, ça sont montés, les gens qui ont exploité ça, qui a passé là pour y faire photo en bas.
Isn't that still disaster capitalism?
Yes. Poverty porn.
Poverty porn, yes.
Oui, c'est moi dit, même là, tu as des gens en bas pont, le gouvernement américain t'a fermé toute zone net, pas de gens qui étaient entrés. Ça, c'est parce que nous sommes là avant la arrivé. Le bagage vient river, vient joindre nous en bas pour ça vient river était déjà là. Mais le gouvernement t'a fermé tout bagage pas de monde qui entre en bas pour. Au contraire, quand pile monde qui vini, c'est yo qui t'est entré là, yo fin retirer tout le monde. Yo fin disparaître tout le monde, c'est là yo dit ça oh ouvrez à loin ou mettre à loin. OK. Problème non, passer en bas pour li tomber dans communauté. Nous pas besoin relais ni moi-même ni Vanessa pour demander yo qu'il bon nous capable porter manger ou bien rad parce que moun yo c'est de passage joteye que dans Texas que dans Arizona que dans Californie yo vinn tomber dans communauté si vous avez rad pour te porter Texas pour moun tant pis n'a fait connaître mais telle famille qui kounya après de m'a parler avec vous nous avons 3 familles qui font l'ordre d'al qui pas de côté pour yo dormir yo pas de bagay pour yo manger yo besoin d'aide. Nous capables de mettre tête nous ensemble pour nous porter support, pour nous connecter avec famille, avec amis, si mon parent qui n'ont besoin kounya pendant n'a parler avec vous. Pas rien ba pour nous venir pas rien dans frontière pour nous venir parce que nous c'est de passage que yo l'homme dit on pas venir il doit penser c'est moi pas veut venir et puis là yo arrivé yo ouais vraiment ça me dit c'est ça et comme tout bon monde qui te dit tout à l'heure il y a grand pile monde qui vient faire journaliste nous imaginez nous
Come on
say it
là yo sorti faire tout ça en bas pont Américain prend yo pour yo process yo pas accès avec rien ni pas bosser dedans pas bien pas rien le yo la gen moun yo ice avec CBP poté yo ba nous dans centre là pour ouais moun avec vidéo caméra
Child, yes, thank you.
Gelly, I want you to
Let's get there.
Gelly, what I want you to actually talk about is I remember us having a conversation about a group of Haitians actually basically being trafficked and kidnapped. Because remember, you said the whole thing had to be shut down because there was a group of people qui devaient faire photo et puis ils ont disparu avec un groupe haïtien. Because I want you to talk about that experience because again, this is part of like what was happening at the border.
But even before you get there, Gerline, like I want to talk about the way, I just want to mention how our own people were putting, again, our own people in dangerous way by videotaping, sharing stories, in public forums.
Which will what? Impact their
Their
case.
cases.
Yo vin pran photo papier moun yo, bon monsieur wè ka pran photo papier moun yo. Si m'tante nou sa m'passe pendant 2 semaines.
No, I've been horrified.
Pou y ap pran photo, vidéo, mette comme si moun yo c'est bête qui parle l'abattoir que yo ye. Humilier moun nan, mette moun nan sous vidéo, mette moun nan sous bagay, alors que moun nan at their low, you know, the
lowest point, yes.
2-3 months traveling in the jungle by foot with children on their backs. Like, again, it's like that frustration of like our people and even some of our elected officials, you know, going to the border, and it's like, how are you contributing to this? Why aren't you home making budget decisions of how you're going to receive people and support them and assist them? Or putting pressure on the administration or the party, because again, the Democratic Party is who's in control right now, and being able to do that work.
All under the pretense.
I have to give credit to Neon, concerning Desilme, qui était venu. Li vini pour wè ki jan capable aider changer. Premier jour vini yo t'a plage moun dans la rue. Let me correct that. Te gen moun qui pat gen famille qui te tombé dans la rue. Et ça parce que pat gen bus qui pour mener yo soit San Antonio ou bien Houston, n'est-ce pas? Là nous wè moun yo dans la rue. En tant que haïtien, premier ça nous fait c'est agir par émotion. Qui jan yo fait la gen moun dans la rue, etc., without understanding the system. How did they end up in the streets when 90% of them end up with their families? Understanding that the 10% who didn't have money, who couldn't find their families, who had nowhere to go, ended up at a Greyhound station, which happens to be a gas station. Right? So, how do we fix that? How do we make sure that people are no longer being released into the streets? I have to give credit to Councilman Desilme, who is, I think, Vanessa, you can speak more on the organization, who came and tried to fix that problem and make sure that we created a system where people will be taken directly from the center to Houston or San Antonio without having them spending the night. Bam di nou, gen yon famille ki vini, la m'gade ti pitit la, the baby's about not good. And then she called her family, they told her, you have to come, we are going to make sure you come because you made this journey, so they are taking over their lives. And I'm looking at the baby, I said, ma'am, c'est sous entrailles, mais wap passe pour monter avion avec petite ça. Why? I said, if the way I'm looking at this baby, we have to make sure the baby goes to the hospital, get checked. Mesdames, let me tell you what happened.
Jesus.
I Shirley Sky, who came to help, take them to the hospital. At 2h du matin, Doctor Arele, Doctor Adi, we have to airlift this baby to a larger hospital because the baby is about to die right now.
Jesus.
They airlift the baby from Del Rio to San Antonio. We were able to get the family to a hotel. I told them, don't worry about anything. But
Yeah. Jesus.
We met in hotel, we make sure we get them food. We will take care of it. I'm sharing that to show you that when you pay attention to your own, when your business is a business of making sure that your people are taken care of. C'est pas pour prendre des photos avec bagay que lié. After 5 days, we were able to transfer the family to San Antonio, and actually, Councilman Desilme put them, had them on a bus to go to San Antonio. The next day, the father sent me a picture with the baby, and he said, here is your goddaughter.
Yellow.
Déjà marraine.
Ou kon haïtien. Yo back to
Yellow.
And he said, you know why? And I don't want to cry, y'all. I don't want to cry. And he said, you know why? Now I am smiling. if you did not force us to take the baby to the hospital, yo pas quitter parler à l'hôpital là, non? C'est nous mener petit monde dans l'hôpital là, oui. Li dit qu'on y a c'est crier, nous t'a crié au lieu de faire nous t'a crié.
Right.
The reality is, please, à communauté, si nous avons famille, yon moun nous répond pour yon tant pri pas quitter yon tomber dans la rue parce que nous pas connaît qui ça qui arrive. Nous pas connaît combien de monde qui disparaît. Parce que nous pas parler tout le monde.
And I just wanna uplift for folks again who are watching that we are taking questions on the Haitian American, on the Island TV, on Facebook. Unfortunately, à soir pour moun yo qui a su connecté, nous pas ka recevoir call, mais sous aller sur Facebook, sur Island TV, au cas la question gain et puis n'a répondre à soir et puis tout sur the Haitian American sur page sur Facebook tout cas la question et puis n'a répondre. Christina.
So I think that what stood out to me about this story is not just about the mutual aid and us, it's about the dignity and the humanity of our people.
Yeah.
And it also shows that what is happening under this immigration system completely disregards our humanity.
Yeah.
Because why would they let that mother leave with her child in the condition that this baby was in?
Yeah.
That's right.
Because, I'm sorry, Customs and Border Patrol and the entire mega department of Homeland Security have enough resources and medical staff to be able to meet the needs of that child.
But let's talk about
but
CBP.
It's you should be lucky.
Yeah.
You should be lucky that you even got to leave and you weren't put on a plane. Like that is the condition that our community is in right now. That we have to be thankful that they were dropped off in the middle of a small town in Southwest Texas with no resources and that is the welcome that they received.
And before we go to CDP, what I want to talk about is also that, at least for the millennials, young people, I encourage you all to have conversations with your parents and your uncles and aunts, because many of us, and what is said to be true, is that when you're not clear on your history, you fill in gaps. You fill in gaps that are actually untrue.
You don't know your parents'
Many of you all have these things that you've told yourself about your parents and your uncles and your aunts' migration story, that if you were to sit them down and talk to them, they'll tell you about them being held at the Chrome Detention Center. They'll tell you about them being starved. They'll tell you about Guantanamo Bay. They'll tell you all the things, and you'll realize that you are lucky to be in the positions that y'all are in with these comments under the Union Suite.
That's exactly where I wanted to get. C'est l'homme de besoin aller avec nous. Y'all be up under, and you know, I don't have time for y'all, but I find the time. I find the time, because y'all be up under the Union Suite comments on the IG particularly. I be up in there, and then no, because it's like the algorithm knows how to set me off. And I'll see the comment of, oh, you know, I don't know why they feel so entitled. Haitians are so entitled. My G, the way y'all be acting, you would think that America te pour. And that's the problem to me. Y'all don't know your history. Y'all don't care to learn it. I don't know if y'all know how to read, because it's like in your face that we're not, but seriously, it's extremely frustrating to have to deal with people, your own peers, say these horrific things.
And you don't hold them accountable.
You don't hold them accountable.
Also, Google is free.
Yes!
Look up asylum. For what?
Just the most basic definition.
To be coming after your own people in the comments.
Oh, they shouldn't have come here illegally. My God.
And see,
it's not illegal to come to a port of entry.
At a port of entry. What's a port of entry? Look, Google what a
port of entry is.
The border. See, you have to be on U.S. soil.
Good God.
Can you pick me? Because I have one better. America just never lets people in for like that, just like that. Are you kidding me?
That's how America was founded.
America lets other immigrants in all the time.
All the time.
They let themselves in and they let other people in.
Mesdames, écoutez, nous clarifier, avocat Vanessa, clarifier pour mon yo qui ça asile. Et puis parce que y a dit bon mon a rentré dans pays illégalement. The legal thing for them to do, the proper thing for them to do pour ça qui pas parler bon créole yo, the legal thing the proper thing, the correct thing for them to do is to come, present themselves, and ask for asylum. Whether it is under the bridge, or be in the airport, or be in the port côté lié.
That's right.
And before Vanessa jumps into that, I
actually... thing for them to do. Et puis, on l'autre bagaille encore que Vanessa a mentionné. Comme les Haïtiens qui pensent que c'est Native American, yo.
Yo même qui débattent pays.
Haïtiens qui oublient que c'est les Fujis qui vini.
That they were Haitian. That's when y'all became Haitian.
Okay.
Haïtiens comme nous dit qui pas parler avec ti mami, ti papi pour connaître que c'est dans bateau yo te vini tout.
Yeah, so,
they don't want to
so
know.
Gillian.
Pas parler avec ma grand-père depuis ou pas native américain son jour te vini là et puis yo pas bail résidence pour haïtien ni rentrer comme ça. Puis il faut aller rentrer dans le pays de façon non régulière.
Okay, Gillian. So before we pivot to Wanda, because I know we have some questions, but I do want you, Vanessa, to break this down because I remember Christina and I were having so many conversations between what's a parolee, what's an asylee, and what's a refugee.
We had a whole IG live we had to take down. It got too spicy.
Exactly. And so it's very important, I feel like, for our people to understand. And so in the most simplest ways that you can explain that, because again, what Gillian said of like port of entry, people are presenting themselves at the border. It was the United States and how they chose to handle it was what the problem was.
They set it up that way.
Yes. Yes.
So it's really simple.
Comment vous
Go ahead, dim simpla.
It's so
And I'm gonna need
simple.
you to say it in Creole too, because you know we got our folks watching on Connecté.
deux fois.
Wa besoin de dire deux fois en anglais
The
Creole.
law literally says on the book
That they were?
that if you would like to request asylum, you can't do it from your home country.
Because you're in danger.
Ain't that the whole point?
And then you can't do it outside the country. You can't be outside the club asking for drinks. You gotta come to a port of entry, and a port of entry is an airport. The border. My God.
Across whichever part.
Could that be the U.S.
beach?
Mexico?
You know,
You know.
Mexico port. Okay. The sea.
That part.
International waters, my friend.
And then you say, I am afraid to return to my country.
That is the process.
That's supposed to be the process.
That's the line, y'all. That's the line. That's the line. That's the line.
And actually, you have a year to do that.
A year to do
So
it.
you don't even need to do it.
You
when
could be
you first touch-
lollygagging around for a year. You could spend 363 days gallivanting around the country trying
And
to
on
find
the-
where you want to settle in.
Exactly.
And that, my friends, is immigration law.
And
Like
what about
literally, like this is
and
asylum law.
what about the parolee and the refugee?
Non, but moi, je sou moun qui pa pale anglais.
Oui.
Songez que la loi américaine dit que si ou besoin demander asile, faut qu'on rentre dans port d'entrée dans le pays États-Unis. Pas qu'à faire dans l'autre pays. Bon, on peut demander à l'autre pays asile dans le pays pas. Mais on pas qu'à demander États-Unis asile si ou pas États-Unis. Il faut qu'on rentre dans port d'entrée qui c'est que c'est par la mer ou rentrer, que c'est avion, que c'est sous frontière là, et vous avez 1 an pour faire demande ça. Kounia, the parolee. Let's talk about parolee.
Wait, can I ask one question about that asylum in general? You know, was there ever a point where they were just like, Haitians, y'all can come?
Oh, you're trying to compare it to the...
I'm just asking because a lot of us on the live and on the comments just think y'all parents just had a whole
They got an
raising up
invitation.
to come.
No.
When I
We
know,
the stories, either you overstayed, we got our folks on
people came on
roads,
other
people came
passports,
in
all this
hotels.
stuff. We ain't gonna say it on
We're
the.
not gonna mess with people's situation.
We
No.
know. But go ahead, Vanessa, go ahead.
We're not gonna talk about who you married to get there.
All this stuff.
But you know, I want to go to parolees, right? America is so disrespectful.
Rude.
Okay, they told everybody else, "Oh, you coming in? Cool. We ain't worried." Then our black cells
Black people started coming.
we started coming in numbers. And now it's like, ooh, we got to give them a status, but not a status. Because we don't really want them here. And so they gave us parole, and they called it humanitarian parole. And then you have asylees. But asylees, right, you got to take a step back because you have asylum applicants, right, people who actually apply for asylum. And then an asylee is somebody who has been granted asylum. And a refugee, traditionally, that status is given to you prior to entering the country, right? So you'll see there are some countries, especially like I think if you think about like the Sudanese and, you know, different countries like that, where they had given them refugee status, and then you enter the country with refugee status. And the essential point.
Sorry. So I just want to say that the requirement is you still had to leave your country. You can't apply.
Right. You can't just
you have to be in another country.
Secondary country.
Asking for refuge. Exactly.
And does that not sound like all of our people who've been all over the Western Hemisphere except Haiti?
Right, but they don't want you here. So
right.
That's
so
we're gonna but just really quickly, and the basis is that you're afraid to return to your country, right? Because you fear either you were subject to persecution, you te persecuted, or you have a fear of future persecution if you are forced to return, and that persecution is because of your race, your nationality, your religion, your political opinion, or because you are a member of a particular social group. So particular social group, very weird to define, but just think of what connects all of these bases, right? What connects all of them is the fact that you possess a trait or you possess some sort of characteristic that is just part of you, and you should not be forced to change. You shouldn't be forced to change your political opinion. You shouldn't be forced to change your race. You can't change your race, I guess. Well, it's a social construct. We can get into that. That's another show. Another show. You can't, you know, you can change your religion, but you shouldn't be forced to change your religion, right? So membership in a particular social group, you know, this is not, we could do law school later, but essentially that's what it is.
That's right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so we're gonna pivot because I know we have some questions.
LGBTQ.
Oh, yeah, well, yes. I didn't want to get there because I see it.
Social, yeah. That's what she was basically alluding to that in the social and what you don't have to change about yourself. But yes.
Explicitement, parce qu'on connaît un pile parfois, nous pas dans communauté pas nous pas voulons parler de bagages comme ça. So, moun qui m'assiste, m'a divine, qui gagne des orientations sexuelles,
they also fall within that.
This just became the After Dark show.
Yes, thank you, Gelling. So we're gonna pivot now to Wanda because I know I've been watching the live and it's hot up in here. Like a lot of people are thanking y'all. That is much I can say is true. A lot of people are thanking y'all for the bluntness, the truth in bringing it to our people. So Wanda, let's pivot it over.
Okay, making sure my audio is good. Okay, so this is the time now where we're going to take questions and answers. We're going to take questions from social media. So if you are watching from Instagram, you can start posting your questions right now. And if you are on Facebook, we've seen a lot of different questions, but the conversation, like Francesca says, has been heavy. So it's been hard to keep up with everything that you've been saying. But now you can start posting your questions. So my first question that I did catch, and I would like to start with this because we've been seeing a lot of this on Instagram, because one of the things, I don't know if you guys discuss it, I guess I'll start with this. When everything happened on Friday, we had a live with Gerling where she explained that people were going to be gone in Del Rio by Friday. Yeah. So by Friday afternoon, there was a large trending topic that said, where did all the Haitians go? It was almost like people thought that, you know, for the week when we were saying the planes are going to Haiti, like, I don't understand how this narrative started floating. But the question was, where did all the Haitians go? How did they move 15,000 Haitians in a week? So if somebody can start with that, and then this kind of leads into the next question, where someone asks, so for the people that have landed in Haiti, what is going to happen to them? So I'm sorry, Farah says, so what happens to all the Haitians that were flown back to Haiti? There should be an exception for them to still be able to apply for asylum. Is that even possible?
So I'm going to talk about where did the 15,000 Haitians go?
Take both, Christina. Come on.
Because this is what has kept me up at night.
You haven't been sleeping.
So imagine that there are about six to seven flights per day that have roughly 100 people on it that are going to Haiti on a daily basis. So there are at least 4,000 people who have been sent back to Haiti. So we subtract that from the
15,000,
18 to 15,000. There are 12,000 people that are not accounted for. And we know that they got on buses that are owned and operated by the Department of Homeland Security, and we know that they're in their custody. What we do not know is where they are.
We have
don't
questions.
know what detention center they're in. We don't know if there are children that were transferred to Health and Human Services Department.
Right.
So there's a whole, you know how we were talking about kids in cages?
Missing kids?
There are kids who have been designated as unaccompanied minors that were under that bridge, that are under the custody of Health and Human Services, and are going to be entered into the foster care system. And we don't know the number of those children. We don't know if they did any DNA testing with the people that they're with to prove that they weren't with a parent. Because we know there was
separating.
We know there was no testing happening because they wanted to get as many people out as possible. And so we know that you're either en route via ICE Air. It's literally called ICE Air, y'all. It's literally called ICE Air. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter, where they report out their expulsion
daily
and
numbers.
deportation flights. And then we know that they're in detention centers. We don't know where in the United States.
We don't know what conditions.
So they can't get interpretation services.
Nope.
They can't get legal representation.
Nope. But you know what's disgusting to me? That we have to like scramble. It's like the Underground Railroad right now, because we're talking to each other and saying, hey, you know, have you heard which, you know, somebody picked up a client in this detention center. Hey,
were there any other people?
Can you tell me how many of your brothers and sisters might be in here? You know, I mean,
I was dealing with that with Gerline, like literally for 7 days. I'm going back and forth with Gerline, like, Gerline, here's my cousin's ID, his wife's ID, his 2-year-old son. Can you help me find them? And it was yesterday I finally got the news that he ended up in Haiti.
Let me tell you something. So one of the things I do want to mention is that for those of you asking how you can find your family if they're in detention, Google ICE detainee locator, and you'll be able to put in their information and find them. Donc si vous cherchez un monde, cherche sur Google ICE detainee locator, and maybe you can find them. But what's the worst part? Thank you. If they were processed, because
they weren't given an alien number.
Immigration is so lazy, lazy. They're giving reference numbers.
That's not a thing.
I wanted to add, Vanessa, to what you just said. Only people who have been transferred to ICE that will be able to find. Right
people
now,
are in correctional custody.
They are in this limbo period under CBP custody.
Right.
They haven't been processed into the system. They do not have an A number. Their names are written wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Their date of birth is up, backwards.
Incorrect.
Right now, the people are in this limbo period where they are not even appearing in the ICE locator because they are not
They're not being processed properly.
Immigration is literally not trying.
Right now, the three things that's happening is one, either they get deported. Two, the very few who get in because of extreme conditions. And three, people who will be sent to ICE prison. At that time, we can get A number. And the only way for us to get the A number is if they call Vanessa, if they call a family member to tell them this is where I am, or they don't know where they are. And the first question I asked for the past 6 years, bam numéro bracelet na mona.
Yep. Bam numéro badge.
So that I can locate you. But as of right now, the 10 to 12,000 people that we are asking, where are they? They are in CBP custody, and there will be either three things will happen to them: either deported, released, or sent to immigration prison. For families, we had 3 immigration detention prisons for families. One has been closed in Pennsylvania, which is Burke County. We have 2 left in Texas, which is Carnes, that is close to San Antonio, and Dilley. So if they transfer families to detention centers, they will be at Carnes or Dilley, and then everybody else will be all over the country. Right now, we've heard rumors as to where people might be, but Vanessa, we don't have access to them.
But that's
yes, I know. I'm like, we have a lot of questions to get to, Christina.
The very last point that I want people to understand who have never dealt with a family member in detention before, when there is overflow, when there is a surge You get put in county jail in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
You don't exist in the system because you're in CBP custody, not ICE custody. And the overflow.
So I'm gonna pause you because I need y'all to break down CBP because y'all saying acronyms and people don't know what these acronyms are.
So Customs and Border Patrol.
And what's
so
ICE?
There are
the
three
one on the
branches.
horse.
And what's ICE?
ICE is Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement.
Okay.
So I like to say one is the state trooper and one is
the federal agents.
Like the corrections officer.
But here's the other part of it though. Like I really, it makes me sick that we allow these folks to criminalize people for, number one, what they deem a civil violation. But it's not a violation because you told me to come to the port of entry and ask for asylum.
I just want to tell
you
who to call.
With CBP, right? With CBP, my biggest issue is when they tell us, right? Because they have their press conferences and they say, well, most of these people didn't actually have a fear of returning to their country.
They never had an interview.
First of all, so you want me
Vanessa, can I just tell
to
people to call?
articulate the fear to you
who
is trampling me with horses.
Okay, so Sandra give the number.
When I articulate my fear, ladies. But wait, when I do say I'm scared, am I to believe that you're gonna do something about it?
All right, let's let Sandra give the number, and so we can pivot to the next question.
It's not even a number.
Okay, so what is it?
It's your elected officials.
Okay.
Ask your elected officials.
Congressional members.
Where are the Haitians?
All right, Wanda.
Okay, so this is where I was going next. Okay, so
that was one question.
Clear, right? So this has been the number one question right now. One, where are? Well, we've already.
Yeah, we already answered that. But what's happening when they arrive? Yeah.
Got it. So the ones that are here, because I'm hearing people ask, what do we do? How can we help the people that are coming to Miami, Maryland? There's been different locations where people are asking, how can we help? And so are you guys telling me, as simple as this, the answer is
what?
So a few things. I know St. Law Haitian Neighborhood Center.
So in Florida, in South Florida.
So St. Law, make sure you clear, is in Florida.
In South Florida.
South Florida, in Miami.
Yeah, North Miami.
Is what she's referring to.
And they have already started to assist the people. I will ask y'all again. Ask your parents their refugee story. Their stories in general about migration, because this is not the first time that the Haitian community has rallied around trying to get people, what they need as they've come to the States.
To get them to settle.
So hold on. Before you go into that, so a couple of days ago, Gerline told people during a live that as these people come into different cities, if you wanted to be a host family, there were different ways by contacting, like St. Law contacting her to help if you wanted to be a host family. So are you guys telling me that can't even happen? Because
so hold on, let's take a pause because we're, at least for Island TV, n'a retourné, nous parlons éclam, n'a retourné un moment, n'a pris une pause et puis n'a continué avec tout le monde qui a suivi nous sur Facebook, sur Island TV, on the Haitian American.
Yeah. So what you can do is reach out to your mayor's office. So many places, so in New York, in Boston.
I'm gonna need y'all to start speaking in Creole too.
We're talking Instagram right now. So go on Instagram and Facebook and understand that I'm saying go to your mayor's office because they should have somebody in their office that deals with immigration. And the more people ask, what is our local government doing to welcome people, the more resources can go to nonprofits, Haitian-led nonprofits, to be able to help receive people.
There's also like the Underground Railroad that I know exists for these kinds of things. If your pastor and your church are not saying that they're opening the doors of the church, members are not saying they're opening their doors, you need a new pastor. You need to transfer churches because they're not really about what the people are about, what God told them to be about. So I know in the past, churches have opened their doors because often they have rooms, they have showers, etc. We know church members have opened their doors to children, to people who need to figure themselves out for the time being. Right? So churches are sanctuaries. So we know this has happened in the past. So there's many ways that y'all can be invited. I grew up in the Adventist church. My call out is to the Southeastern Conference of the Seventh-day Adventists. What are they doing to help folks who are coming into South Florida, into Florida in general, to ensure that they have everything they need. And I will be following up with them.
All right.
Thank you, Sandra. So, guys,
the conversation. I want to add, we have 3 families right now in need of help. No, you're not hotel, no zone Fort Lauderdale. You're buying priority. So just putting that out there, people who want to support, we are looking for housing for 3 families. Gayon famille, c'est un maman, papa, 2 petits moun. Gayon l'autre famille, c'est maman avec 2 petits moun. Gayon l'autre famille, c'est maman, papa avec 1 petit moun.
Okay.
So what Gerline is saying, Gerline, so if they want to help out, what city did she say that was in?
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. If you in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, there are 3 families that are looking for
Housing
right now. So the best thing to do, I can tell you guys, you can reach out to us at lineasuite@gmail.com. We'll make sure it gets to Gerline, or you can email info@haitianbridge.org. That correct, Gerline?
But I also want to remind people that, you know, sometimes like you can't take a family in, but if you have some money, you know, donate it to an organization that may be able to assist
So that
with
they can
that. And so, you know, when I think about like Sunla, as you mentioned, you know, they can't serve everybody every which kind of way, but if you make a donation, that will help them to increase their capacities. So I think it's really important to uplift that as well, donating to Haitian Bridge Alliance, who's doing this work. You know, a little goes a long way.
All right, okay. And then nous retournons tout le monde tout connecté. Encore nous remercions pour que ça nous toujours là avec nous. Nous étions branchés avec nous avec une spéciale édition connectée à soir. Et puis on continue avec conversation pour que ça nous connaît. Conversation nous tape gain question qui t'est demandé c'est comment nous assister moun New York les arriver dans tout côté arriver Maryland, en Floride, en New York, comment on assister. Et puis Vanessa me connaît qui t'a parlé sur ça.
Bon, oui, ça me dit c'est que il y a plein de monde qui veulent faire un bagage mais yo pas gain place là caillou et puis m'a tout profiter pour ça pour me saluer une dame que me connais qui gagne à peu près 9 monde là caillou qui était sorti sur frontière là et l'a demandé pour caille toujours. So malheureusement pas acheter un caille pour lui, but you know si nous ka fait donation dans quelle que soit organisation qui fait travail ça yo ou bien Haitian Bridge Alliance, je pense que c'est extrêmement important pour faire au moins ça. Gon ti bagay que nous chaque café, si vous connaissez gon moun qui prend moun la kali ou même c'est manger au café pour yo, fait manger pour yo parce que si nous pas fait ça, si nous pas organiser nous étant une vraie communauté, c'est pas rien que n'a régler dans pays ça. C'est like honnêtement.
Absolutely.
Okay, so again, guys, we want to say thank you so much for the conversation that's going on Instagram and Facebook right now. But right now, we are on the question and answer part of the night. We have our beautiful panel up here that is taking your questions. So I see there's a lot of conversation, but we're only going to be taking questions for a few more minutes so we can let them finish up for tonight. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask your question now. I am reading questions from Instagram as well as Facebook.
And a huge shout out to Mickey Racine giving us all the business.
I know, right?
We see you.
Oh gosh. So one of the questions I see on the Island TV page, Marsha Noel saying that rumor has it that more people will be coming to the border when the opportunity presents itself. What will be the plan to make sure what happens this past week doesn't happen again?
So there are. Go ahead. Go ahead, girls.
I was going to say, it's not just more people will be coming, more people are already there.
Right.
And I want people to understand these people didn't just show up. They have been in Mexico anywhere between 5 months to 5 years. And because they didn't have access to get protection and ask for asylum, là yo tan de gon rumeur qui dit yo comme ça si yo aller dans Apunia pour entrer dans Del Rio y a ba yo protection tout le monde quitte Tijuana quitte Reynosa tout le monde quitte Monterrey yo aller là. So there are more people in Mexico right now. There's thousands of people qui campent sous frontière Panama. Gen pile qui sous frontière Pérou, sous frontière Nicaragua, sous frontière Guatemala. N'est-ce pas? Kounya, son belle question. Comment nous pourrons résoudre le problème moun sa yo? Comment nous pourrons travailler pour nous rassurer nous que le rive Mexique a une protection? Comment nous pourrons rassurer nous pour nous lobby Congrès, pour nous lobby et président Biden avec l'administration pour les suspendre maltraiter frères nous actions nous pour suspendre garder autant qu'animal. C'est nous qui mettre tête ensemble avec pour nous pousser elected officials pour créer un système côté yo capable welcome those people with dignity.
Because we've seen it before, and we see it all the time. We see people come into our communities, rightfully so, and they're not treated in the way that we do. And again, I'm going to always, this is my soapbox, if there's anything that we can do as Americans, our tax dollars hard at work is our elected officials doing what we ask them to do. There is no other community that they would treat them like this, and the communities would not push back. They would never get away with this in other communities. So we're asking the Haitian community in the States to say no, not on our watch. Our people will not be treated like this.
So you basically pivoted us to the next part of this, which is what is the ask? So because we have like, what is the ask at this moment? What are we asking, not just of the administration, of our elected officials, but what are, and I know we already kind of talked about the support of what we're asking for our community, but what else are we asking of our community?
So, ma promesse c'est pour me dire que, like, premièrement, je pense que faut que nous comprenions que il y a différentes réalités et nous fait face avec eux, dans différents gens, et puis c'est pas nous tous qui travaillons sur toutes bagailles ensemble, right? So, gon parti côté que premièrement nous connaissons que gen moun qui déjà dans communauté que nous connaissons que yo lagué by famille yo, they're with their families right now, they're with relatives, they're with whomever, and we have to put pressure on our local governments, on local organizations to create spaces and centers that can welcome people. Right? And so what's the vision that, you know, we kind of talked about the other day was essentially, you know, putting legal services in a building with the medical providers, with people who can do transportation, you know, get a big bus and then put a lawyer on that bus. So when they go do their check-ins, they have someone. Making sure that there's medical screenings happening, food, access to whatever resources that they might need under one roof. Because if there is anything that is dehumanizing, demoralizing, it's having to send somebody from one place to another, to another, to another, to another. And we shouldn't
not having
do that
stability.
because we have to remember what these folks faced before they came here. They went from one place to another, to another, to another, to another. They were lied to. So we, comme frères avec sœurs, we have to be the ones to welcome them with open arms because that's what Haitians have always done. Not only for each other, but for everyone. And so the least that we could do is use our privilege in that way. I think on top of that, for people who are in specific sectors, right? So I'll speak for the legal sector. You know, we're recruiting folks to do pro bono assistance, folks to even just do intakes, right? You don't have to take a case. You know, and it's interesting how I get so much support from outside of my community, right? And I need that same support in my community. Besoin avocat qui fait immigration, ou bien quel que soit avocat, because I could teach you, I could coach you. But just take a case, at least do some intakes. So we can not only know these stories, right? Why people migrated, you know, what the conditions were, but also so that we could determine what we can do with that case. If you are somebody who speaks Creole and English well, ou ka servi comme interprète, ou son moun qui ka aider frère ak sœur vraiment joindre accès avec un bénéfice because you can be the interpreter for them and we can connect them to another pro bono attorney who doesn't speak Creole. All right? There are, you know, folks who have mental health experts, right? We're getting the time out, but you know, mental health experts, right? This is the time when we need you. I mean, shoot, I need you right now. So I can only imagine for people who went this route, what they need at this moment.
So again, pour moun qui a suivi nous non connecté, nous pas point on l'autre break, but again, for our folks who are watching us on the different social mediums, we are going to continue this conversation.
So I have a question. Vanessa, I guess this one might be for you. But before I even get into her question, what I wanted to ask is I think what's going on right now, a lot of people, I think let's kind of make that clear if we can right now. You know, like you're saying all these different ways, like what you need, Sancho, you guys are talking about this, but the thing is when you see these conversations happen in the comments, people don't know what's the main place to go, right? So you're saying with all these different things, what are the organizations? Is it like 3 organizations that everyone can go to right now? Or are you just saying if you're in New York, reach out, like who should people go to right now? Because a lot of people are thinking just go to Haitian Bridge Alliance.
I would say that's why it's really important for our communities to have institutions. Institutions are really important.
And organized institutions.
And it's important for also for us to support institutions in our communities. When we don't, this is the chaos that happens, right? We don't know where to go. We don't know the institutions that exist. For us, I'll say, Saint-Lot is an institution in the Haitian community. They're based in North Miami. They came out of the
They are the original Saint-Lot Refugee Center.
They're the original refugee center where when Haitians were coming by boat in South Florida, they received them and they helped to navigate them. And they're trying to get themselves together. So your coins, your support, ask them. Connect them, and I wouldn't say only for South Florida. Only for Miami. People come from Broward, and you wouldn't even believe people come from Miami, Palm Beach as well.
Or the Keys.
To something like. I will say there is an organization in Palm Beach. I am not 100% sure of the name of the organization, but I do know there's an organization in Palm Beach that's providing social services with a focus and target group on Haitian communities. I think the same for New York. Saint-Lot wouldn't be your connect, but for sure there are institutions in New York. I'm not from New York. Native Floridians, shout out.
But there's Haitian women, Haitian women,
yeah, with Ninaj.
Not New York and Haitian women for Haitian refugees. I literally hung up to get on the phone with you. People are going to her. She's working with directly impacted family. There is hope in New York as well. Unfortunately, we do not have a map of all the organizations that are supporting people when they go to their final destination. And Haitian Bridge Alliance is the only national organization that is dealing with migration at the U.S.-Mexico border in the country. You all know that the needs are extreme. Whatever can be, however we can collaborate, that's what we are here for. We created the welcoming the strangers back in 2016 to be able to answer to the needs of people going into specific communities. How do we map, right? How do we map the Saint-Lot and the Haitian Women for Haitian Refugees and the Hope and other organizations in each area where we have a centralized space where we know the moment somebody gets to
Massachusetts. Oui, so encore avec tout le monde qui a suivi nous se connecter, nous remercions pour ça toujours là avec nous pour ça me connaît, nous avons 10 minutes rete pour toute chose ça, nous avons presque des temps là, n'a parlé en pile, mes amis nous parler, nous pas tout gloire devant nous, nous pas même boire un petit bagage nous pas soif. Pour ça encore ces informations à porter ba ou Gerline, you can continue.
Oui, moi t'ai dit pour nous map toute organisation qui baille service avec communauté haïtienne dans Miami comme là dans New York Haitian Women for Haitian Refugees Hope et dans Massachusetts et dans DMV area dans l'autre côté Haitian Bridge Alliance lui-même c'est seule organisation, the only Haitian led, the only black led organization that is focusing on the migration issues at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yes.
We have been doing it for 2015, trying to see how we can map and send people for services. Nous connaissons depuis qu'on arrive dans ce là, nous pas besoin de battre nos problèmes. Une people problème nous gagnons, c'est le nouveau monde Miami ou bien New York. Mon narré en moi besoin retourner vinn joindre nous parce que li pas joindre même qualité service nous bali pas boy c'est dans California soit dans Miami ou bien dans New York. So we really want to bring ourselves together so nous capable map et organisation ça yo capable bon service et puis tout le moun yo vini tant pris c'est pas yon possibilité pour tout faire ci business ou excusez-moi si me dit nous ça.
No, it's true. It's true.
pour nous tout profiter, gagner un pile client, les fini pour nous dire on a baillé un service pro bono, après ça pour nous charger l'argent. C'est call to action for the Haitian community to bring ourselves together to serve us. Parce que m'a dit nous encore, l'homme te campé en bas pour moi, mon yo comme ça, moi comme ça. Pas de différence entre moi-même avec yo. C'est comme si je regardé tête moi dans miroir en bas pour.
That's it.
Thank you.
Francesca.
I'm going to let Christina jump in, and we have one more question.
And so just for South Florida folks, so the Office of New Americans is putting together a list of all the different organizations, and we are trying to hopefully pull together a welcoming center so that everything is under one roof, so we're not having our folks running around
this
because again,
county.
We want people to be received with dignity.
That's why you gotta have your people in high places.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Wanda.
Like the lady said, it's almost time for us to go, so I'm going to take this one last question. So I see a lot of different questions coming in, but the ladies are answering the question, and I do see a lot of engagement where you guys are communicating with each other. You can continue to drop your questions on Facebook, and I see you guys are answering them as you get a chance. So
I'm
you
only
can,
really talking to Mickey.
you can keep answering your question, but this one is kind of off topic, but I really wanted to answer this because she's been on here for the last 30 minutes asking the same question over and over on Instagram. So she said, "M'vle rentre États-Unis legal, oui. M'pa gen zami ni famille l'autre bois. Qui conseil ou ka ban?" So pretty much she's asking, she says she wants to come to the U.S. and she's trying to come legally. She doesn't have any friends or family here. What kind of advice can you give her?
She need to marry somebody. She need a man.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, Ms. What?
That is the truth.
No, you would still be waiting.
You will still
Welcome
be
to the
waiting.
backlog.
Non, mais yon moun kon sa m'a suggéré c'est que vous parlez avec yon avocat immigration
Y'all play too much tonight.
pour comme si toute possibilité qui gagne, faut que nous parlions de histoire and all of that. So, premièrement, just chercher un avocat immigration.
Is there more?
Okay, so if
She's
she's
like,
in Haiti,
I'm consulting.
if she's in Haiti, then she needs an immigration attorney here or in the U.S.
She should just get a
She should consult.
She can have a
Yeah, she has to have a consultation.
Consultation que moun sa ou ap fait. So, ou besoin chercher un avocat immigration aux États-Unis pour faire au moins une consultation. Just pour qu'elle comprenne qui toute option que vous gagnez.
Sancha looking like she got more on her mind.
I just want to say that there are thousands of folks in Haiti who have their family petition ready. The U.S. Embassy has been closed for 3 years.
That's another reason to call your people and ask them, why is the embassy still closed?
So imagine that you've waited your 8 years to get your family member who petitioned for you, who again did things the right way. Only for you to not be able to pick up your paperwork because embassy is closed to the public. And so again, let's talk about how it is more than the 15,000 people that were under the bridge.
Yeah.
The entire system is not working for us.
And then y'all keep talking about a line, and you know what?
Line?
First of all, what you need to stop doing is pulling all these people's talking points and come repeat them about under l'Union Suite Instagram because I be on there and I watch y'all. 2.
Talking about waiting in line. What line?
What line? Because
the
when
line
you
your mama waited in? Your mom didn't wait in the line.
But wait, when you do get in the line,
you're going to be waiting for a very long time. Yeah.
We create a new line.
You're going to be waiting for a very long time.
It's a line on line on line.
Oh my gosh.
Did you guys, because I'm kind of seeing this come up now, was there a conversation about what is happening to the Haitians Haitians of descent that came from South America on what their government is doing, how that's being handled versus how our Haitian government is handling us?
We could talk about that.
I'm like, we have like 6 minutes because we already got a few minutes because we're basically talking about people who are ended up stateless, people
whose countries are not
whose countries are not receiving them, they're stateless, all of this stuff.
So
the racist government?
There are multiple things happening, and obviously other folks can jump in.
Yeah.
The number one thing is there are a category of people who are born in South America who are not issued a birth certificate and are not recognized as citizens
by their
of those
government,
countries, even though they were born there and it's birthright citizenship. Then there are people who, because they are minors, and this is what the administration is saying, is that, because the Chilean-born child who doesn't speak Creole, who only speaks Spanish, who is Chilean, for all intents and purposes, is with a parent
who is Haitian.
was with a parent who is Haitian and they're a minor, they got sent on the plane to Haiti. Because
they gave them citizenship by blood.
The Chilean government is not going to receive them. Because what happens is the Haitian government has said, yes, we will receive these folks, whereas explicitly the Chilean government and the Brazilian government said, no, we will not. And they're in negotiations on how to receive back their own people.
Can you clarify what Haitian government you're talking about? Because I don't know one that is.
So the unelected prime minister,
Here's where I'm at. When you want to deny a benefit, they're not Haitian. It's because they're not Haitian. Oh, but now they're Haitian because you want to deport them. Figure it out.
Because when they're applying for TPS, you're saying, oh no, they're not eligible for TPS
because they are secondary country.
American citizenship, birth.
And they lucky a new FAQ came out that gave them the opportunity to now.
They cleaned it up.
They cleaned themselves up.
You can't tell me that. Oh no, we can't expel you or deport you to your home country.
Right.
But yet, you're not Haitian enough to qualify for TPS.
Okay.
They figured it out now.
So we're about to take one quick last commercial break on Island TV. Again, for our people watching us on Facebook, we're going to continue this conversation. And I'm going to give y'all a few, really just a couple of seconds each to wrap up this last piece around your final thoughts. And again, the call to action. All right, y'all?
Yep. We're going to speak for the last part.
Yes, for our folks. But for our folks on Facebook, our folks on the social media, we can keep going and we can speak in English because I'm like, our folks are really engaging when we speak in English.
Yes, that's
so for our social media folks, but when we return, we're going to be breaking it down in Creole and some Cree English for y'all.
I just want to be clear. When we're like, what Haitian government y'all are talking about, we understand
there's no legitimate government right now.
The powers came together, even though civil societies in Haiti was like, actually, this is our process. The U.S. government, other governments was like, actually,
here's your
we
puppet.
like this process.
Here's your puppet.
And that's what's going on right now. So
yes.
From my perspective,
there is no Haitian government.
There is an extension of the American government and the Canadian government and maybe some European folks that are in Haiti right now. Just so we're clear.
Thank you for that honesty.
The core group, yes.
Thank you for that.
Because there's no way in America.
And elections are canceled. There's no elections happening in 2021.
And there's no way in America the president is assassinated. We ain't got a VP and
certain people are under investigation and they, took out the investigator.
And that's not like the prime minister works for the president. So like how we have a prime minister and no president.
Means that he's working for himself, but not really himself. So again, it's a lot going on, and again, and I'm really hoping, folks. Girlie is just like, I'm gonna stay quiet on this one, but I'm really hoping that folks were able to really get grounded again on what we're discussing, what we're talking about, this humanitarian crisis at the border, or the causes of this, because again, it's like that cause and effect that we got to break it down to the basic level of like something happened in our home country that has caused certain conditions that have made it unlivable for our people. And again, and there's layers of things that have happened because we have many people who are coming from a secondary country to the United States presenting themselves, following the process, and the United States government has decided we're going to actually not follow our own process. We're actually going to break our own laws when we claim law and order and, the rule of law, all of that stuff. But when it comes to the Haitians, they're not going to follow their own laws. They're not going to allow people to present themselves at the border as quickly as possible. And they tried to do it as quietly as possible, but media got it. Everything came out, and we had thousands of people who were at the border. And again, as Gerline said, we had people who are already at the U.S.-Mexico border on the California side, and folks saw an opportunity to be able to come in through the Texas side. And so it was basically a convergence of people coming from Central and South America, and the convergence of people leaving Mexico and coming over and trying to, again, seek a better life for themselves and their families, and being put in a very dangerous situation at the hands of the United States government. So I want us to really get into...
So Def has something to tell us.
Oh, okay. What's so Def?
The baby that was born under the bridge is American.
Yes.
Oh yeah, birthright. Yeah, we have that. We have birthright citizenship. Although Trump tried to take it away, we do have birthright citizenship here in the United States. But they were technically expelled, and so they're not going to allow those children to claim their United States citizenship.
So the kids born of Haitian parents in Texas, that
Our
are
United, yeah.
Americans
Put on
were
a plane.
deported.
Deported.
On a plane to
Yeah.
Haiti.
That part.
Okay, and so nous kounya nous retourner dans dernière section kounya nous quoi son minute seulement nous gagner pour nous for us to wrap this up again. Like I can't believe we had this going for 2 hours. And so again, vle remercier tout le monde qui t'a suivi nous là avec connecté, qui t'a arrêté à suivre, à poser questions. M'da souhaité nous répondre en pile de questions pour que ça nous connaît comment communauté haïtienne nous grand pile travail pour nous faire, nous grand pile organisé pour nous faire pour nous vraiment supporter moun nou yo qui a continué entrer pour que ça nous connaît conditions yo Haïti. So m'vle by Christina, Sancha, Vanessa, yon dernière opportunité après ça m'a passé la Wanda. Christina, you only got a few seconds. Phone number, something you want to give?
So follow the Black Collective and follow the Office of New Americans. Travail là a fait commencer, nous fait commencer et puis nous pas quitter la communauté.
Sancha?
Avancez ensemble on all platforms. Chapeau bas, Gerline, Pap Jam Sispandi, chapeau bas. And thank you, Francesca, and all the amazing people. I'm in it for the people always and forever, so let's go.
Vanessa?
Thank you, ladies, for the invitation. Mabdi nou lave cœur nou. Chercher yon côté n'a prier. Bon Dieu pour ba nou grâce, OK? Pour nous faire yon bon bagay pour communauté nou. Ça veut dire ouvert bras nous pour recevoir moun, n'importe gens capable, mais recevoir yo avec les bras ouverts. OK, pour aider yo intégrer en dans communauté nous parce que c'est d'après tout c'est frères et sœurs nous que yo.
OK, Gerline?
Merci en pile de ce que nous t'ai gagné moi avec nous et moi-même dans devise nous c'est en pile mais chai palou, pas vrai? Et nous croyons dans l'union fait la force là, nous croyons dans en pile mais chai palou. Il y a un monde qui te demande une question, moi dire comme ça, songer la dessalinienne qui dit pour le pays, pour la patrie, mourir est beau, dans nos rangs, point de traître, etc. On nous mette tête nous ensemble pour nous capables de répondre avec besoin peuple là, les besoins Haïti que tout le monde a grillé dans sous lui. Le nombre haïtien a passé dans 10 pays, côté une pays pas bail protection. Côté yon pays yo pas respecter nous en tant que être humain.
OK.
En pile message palou, moi penser ça que nous vini ouais en bas pont, mettez-nous en face réalité nous. We are facing our realities, guys.
OK, thank you, Gerline. Pour tout le monde qui a suivi connecté, nous remercions nous en pile pour que ça ait été branché avec nous, te suivre nous à soya. Nous demandons encore, on connaît chaque lundi, chaque mercredi, connecté live avec nous. L'autre semaine, on va en avec Sévère retourner. M'pap là, m'a commencé à voyager pour travail pour aller faire Philadelphia, mais m'a retourner l'autre semaine. And again, Wanda, we're going to wrap it up for our people online. Any final words for La Union? And thank you again for the platform.
Thank you so much, ladies. I can't believe we've really been up here for 2 hours because it really doesn't feel like it. And I really think y'all had enough to keep it going. So thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for all the information. Thank you to everyone on Facebook, the Haitian American. Thank you to people on YouTube as well as Instagram. Thank you for sharing your questions. Like we've been saying, and we will continue to say, just because you are not seeing this trending topic right now on CNN and these other platforms, that doesn't mean the discussion has stopped. So we're going to keep it going. These ladies are going to keep it going. Everyone in the Haitian community in all these different cities, let's keep these conversations going. Let's stay connected on how we can continue to help and continue following us. We will continue to share the flyers and discussions and the Zooms and everything that we have going on this topic. Thank you again, ladies. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us tonight.
Have a good night.
Next time. Bonsoir tout le monde.